All right, I think we are going to get started. Good morning, folks. Feel free to turn on your cameras if you wish, but if not, don't worry about it. Kendrick, am I coming through for you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay, good. Just making sure. I'm really excited to have some time to talk with the folks on this call this morning. I'm coming to you from an organization called SchoolKit. I'm actually in a hotel room in Albany, New York today. Don't ask why, but looking forward to spending time with folks this morning and telling you a little bit about the work and supports that our team has to offer along the lines of the THL resources. So we'll jump in. I just wanted to start off by welcoming folks to the call and thanking you for being here. I want to thank you for leading your colleagues, your students, and your communities through what has really been a crisis over the last 2 years. And I thank you for the work you have done and the work you will do to support academic recovery and acceleration. And hopefully these resources can actually be a huge part of that work and a huge part of that strategy. And I also want to thank you for your interest in strengthening instruction with a materials-driven approach, using high-quality materials and really investing in the educators that you lead and support to do this work well. So thanks for joining. Some quick introductions. I'm Ethan Mitnick. I'm our president and founder here at SchoolKit. I was a special education teacher and a school principal in New York City for about 10 years. And then I started SchoolKit about 9 years ago. And our mission at SchoolKit is pictured here on the right. We believe that excellent teaching is the foundation of equitable schools. And we work very closely in partnership with local educators to improve instruction and leadership through content and curriculum specific training. That is really the heart that we do to build educators' knowledge and skills. And by working together with school systems, we build schools and school systems that help all students succeed. So during my presentation today, I'll probably be presenting for maybe 15 minutes, and then we'll open things up for questions. We'll start off with introductions. I wanted to share some information about SchoolKit's approved offerings. Just sort of answer this question: why partner with an organization like SchoolKit? What are some of the things we have to offer? What might that partnership look like at a very high level? We're not going into too much detail today. And then making that time for Q&A after we're all wrapped up. You know what? I wasn't sure how many folks to expect on the call, but I would love before I jump in with my next topic for folks just to share your name, the sort of agency or school system you're coming from, and your role. Could folks drop that into the chat for me this morning, just so I can get a sense of where folks are joining from? Hi, Katie, good morning. Great, welcome, Nicole. Hi, Melissa. Hey, Cindy, welcome. Hi, Holly. I think that's most of the folks we have here joining on the call this morning. Great. Well, thanks to everyone for joining. I wasn't sure how many people to expect. Usually I like to make a more interactive presentation, so please feel free to jump in to come off mute to ask questions in a moment or ask for clarifications in addition to the Q&A we'll have together at the end. We have a relatively small group, so I think we have the ability to do that this morning. Now that we've gotten a little better introduced, I'll jump in with some of our approved offerings at SchoolKit. So of course, the purpose of this webinar is really to focus on Decision 2A as part of T-Class. So we're really going to be focusing on high quality instructional materials, both the supports for LEAs to engage in planning work and the actual training work that can happen for leaders and teachers. So our approved offerings at SchoolKit are here on the page. Again, we're approved for the implementation support pieces, which is so important to really get your school system ready for the change that new curriculum resources demand. And we're approved to help with that system-wide training, which really should be over a period of years to deepen educator knowledge and practice and make sure that folks are becoming better teachers and better leaders through the lens of a high-quality instructional material. So here you see we're approved for K-5 Eureka Math, for the 6 to 12 Carnegie offerings, for both the English versions and the Spanish versions of Amplified Texas for K-5, as well as the middle school resources and materials, and the high school 9 to 12 Odell Texas High School Literacy Program, and the K-5 PhD Science. So now the offerings are pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to share a couple slides about our approach and what we can offer school systems who are entering into this really exciting but really challenging work. And the three main reasons I wanted to share, the first one is our team's deep knowledge of content, of curriculum, and of the TEKS. The second is that because we support several of these different offerings, we can create a really aligned and streamlined approach working together. And the third one is this idea of creating a really customized partnership to meet the needs of your school system. So we'll go into a little bit more depth on each one of those. Okay. So our team's knowledge of the content, the curriculum, and the TEKS. Over these last 8 years, our team has developed very deep content expertise in K-12, language arts, math, and science. So we are really deep in the standards, really deep in the content and the pedagogy, and that is something that our team is bringing to the table. That all being said, we're also focused on the practice of bringing this work to life, giving folks in our trainings and our partnerships the chance to apply what they've learned in their classrooms and their schools and work side by side with them to do that. We have 5 years of experience leading curriculum-specific trainings for teachers and leaders. And I put leaders in italics there because we often think of materials training as being directed towards teachers only, but we found that creating really deep systems change it's incredibly important to engage our school leaders and our coaches and our district leaders in that work. And sometimes that's resetting the role of leaders in the school system. It's less about, making sure the school buses are running on time. It's really about becoming an instructional leader to support teachers and students across your school system. Our work is really focused on instructional materials as the foundation for improving instruction, which for some school systems is a new strategy. But we've seen some really, really exciting change occurring in school systems when we use the core content as our driver for improving instruction. Our team has trained on both some of the national versions of the Texas home learning resources, and we've started training on the Texas versions as well. So we're supporting a couple school systems in the state with the Odell High School Literacy Program already, which is really exciting to get that work off the ground. We're having a lot of fun. We also have comprehensive expertise on TEKS. We helped review some of the Texas home learning resources for publication. So we were really looking closely at the alignment of the resources to the TEKS and ensuring that our team has really deep knowledge on the standards as well. My second point is because we can create a really aligned and streamlined approach in our work together. When you consider SchoolKit's offerings for math and for ELA, we're approved from K-12, which really helps with that vertical planning and coherence. To think about if your school system is to adopt both the Eureka and Carnegie offerings, how do we make that transition from 5th grade to 6th grade as we move to different materials? It also helps when you can get support with multiple curriculum resources from one vendor, rather than having to pull together a team of multiple vendors to do that. And that helps the school system because we're going to be using aligned strategies, aligned resources and approaches, the way we communicate out about the work, the way we engage in really important work like unit internalization and unit study, how we approach things like walkthroughs of classrooms. So we have a really great opportunity to to streamline the types of work that we do by working together. And it's easier to just plan out some of the logistics, the timing of professional learning sessions, how we communicate out about the work, and the things that we do to develop strong systems and structures for the rollout of the new materials. We can also make sure that this work is really functioning in close alignment with other state initiatives and resources and district resources as well. Okay, reason number 3 is at SchoolKit, we really work to create a customized partnership. So this is definitely not an out-of-the-box training or an out-of-the-box set of services. And I love this idea of there are some baseline things that are really important to have in place to adopt and implement new materials, but this gives us a chance to go above and beyond with our partnership. One thing I always think is really important to call out in this work is to find and actually to develop a strategy and implement a strategy for building local capacity and leadership of the work, whether that's through working with teacher leaders and building their expertise for curriculum leadership, whether it's building capacity within an ESC to lead the work for the districts that they support. That is one of the key components of the work that we've done in our partnerships, some of which are in their 3rd or 4th year, and we've had a chance to really develop local leaders' knowledge and expertise of the curriculum resources. And for context, we would design and build a partnership based on these 3 buckets of work you see here on the right. The first one is that close strategic partnership with district leaders to create sort of our roadmap for implementation. We loved seeing that schematic calendar that shows having this planning year, potentially doing some piloting together to create those systems and structures that are so important to set this work up for success. But then we also, as I mentioned earlier, the importance of engaging school leaders, instructional coaches, assistant principals in this work, and giving them sort of like a just right amount of knowledge and understanding of the new resources vital to the success of the work. And then, of course, deep and comprehensive training for teachers, teachers' assistants, tutors, getting everyone really aligned on how this resource can be used to create more coherence for students. Okay. I think we have probably about 3-4 more minutes to go before we open up for Q&A. But next, I just wanted to give folks some sort of initial ideas of what incepting a partnership might look like. And here, as I mentioned, it's a really exciting opportunity to have a planning period and a planning year in place. And that's where I wanted to sort of start outlining this vision for what this work could look like. So when we think about work that could happen between January and June of this current school year, this is really about laying those foundations for successful implementation, which is vital to ensuring the long-term success of the adoption. We wouldn't want to do this part of the way because then we may not get that buy-in and we may end up changing or rolling over to a new resource in the near future, which creates a lot of change for educators and a lot of change for students as well. During this planning period, we would work really closely with you to ensure that all of those district implementation support requirements are met, creating that vision and aligning goals around the curriculum implementation sort of year by year. Being smart about stakeholder engagement and communication about the resource, because again, this is a change management process. We really need to be transparent about these decisions and get people on board, get them excited and bought into this work, because it's deep work and it's hard work to do, especially in the earliest few months of implementing a new curriculum. And just thinking through and within your unique district context, what are those systems and structures we want to make sure are rolling and are really strongly set into place. These are things like, what expectations does the district have in place for individual schools for implementing this resource? What, for example, does a math block look like or a literacy block look like when we're using this resource? What are some of the things that are required versus optional for schools? What does our calendar look like in terms of professional learning? What is our strategy for building that local capacity for our teacher leaders or our instructional coaches over a period of time? So planning out those systems and structures early is an incredibly helpful endeavor to ensure the success of the initiative. So those are some of the activities our team might undertake together with you early on in this process. When we think about the actual implementation work, which would likely start in the summer of this year, but there may be some things we could do earlier than that. During our implementation year, here are some things we might support with based on the partnership that we design. First, delivering that foundational, but then the ongoing professional learning to teachers and school leaders. We've got to actually shift some mindsets about the importance of using these high quality aligned materials, give people some of the why and the research behind it, but then get folks really quickly into using the resources. How do you use the different components of the resource? And as we extend, the learning really becomes about becoming a better teacher of math through the resource, becoming a better teacher of literacy or science through the resource, and helping folks understand how to teach complex text more effectively, or how to teach mathematics conceptually more effectively, which is something we've seen a lot of systems needing support with. That's really the fun stuff, is when we can deepen teacher and leader learning through the resource. We might also offer curriculum implementation coaching to leaders and instructional coaches, which is actually a list of activities like, let's look at what is intended to be taught in the classroom we're about to go visit. Now let's go into the classroom and see how instruction is similar to or different from what we see in these resources. And then let's respond to what we see. A lot of that work can actually happen through instructional planning. When teachers get really intensive support with how they plan for instruction, we're going to see more rigorous instruction happening in classrooms, which we know is going to really benefit students. So that's just one example of what curriculum implementation coaching can look like. But early on in the process, we tend to start with this work of supporting really strong teacher instructional planning. We can also create a plan, really like a measurement and implementation plan. What are some of the goals and benchmarks we want to see met early on in our curriculum implementation work? How do we gather that data, and then how do we respond to it? And we can also make a plan to deepen the implementation efforts in year 2. We can't throw everything at teachers and leaders in year 1, because we want to pick a few targeted goals and make sure folks are getting really good at sort of flexing those new muscles with this new curriculum resource and launching the work with their students. So these are just a couple of the things we can do during that really exciting implementation year. Okay, so that is about all that I have to present to you. I will say I encourage folks to go check out our website. We have a resources tab where we have lots of different curriculum specific resources and videos available. Some of that material will, I think, help you, one, sort of get to know some of my teammates, and also learn more about our approach, how we communicate out about this work, some of the sort of key principles that drive our work. So I really encourage folks to get in there and check out our website. And here is my email. You can reach out to me at any time with questions. But again, I will be quiet, and I really just want to hear questions from the folks